I feel as of late the devs are listening. Very cool. I'm really excited for season 1. TV station, unreal. Such a fun map. I cannot wait to dive more into TV station when it goes live. The extended Armory map, I don't really enjoy it. It's not as fun for me. Out of the 2, TV station is far more engaging and fun, and I was just enjoying it up and down way more. This was just turning into a thermal fest, and I'm not gonna lie, that siren is so obnoxious.
One dead on me.
I really hope that they reduce the time. I think even a 5-second window of the alarm would do the job of informing everybody in the map something is happening. I don't think they need to go as long as it is. It honestly was giving me a headache. I was like muting it for stream because it was super annoying, and you know, I recommended maybe if there's like an area where the actual alarm is going off, maybe we can go to that and like disable the alarm, and then you can get into Armory quietly as like another layer of strategy. I don't know. I think honestly, if they just reduce the duration of the alarm to like 5 seconds, it wouldn't be that bad. But the duration in which it's at right now is just way too much. Way too much. For me, I won't play Armory, the expanded Armory. I think I'll probably stick with TV station. They are keeping the current Armory, just the actual Armory itself, or like events, maybe some tournaments, stuff like that. The scavs got a bit of an upgrade. It feels like they're can be pretty strong. So there was a couple of times over the weekend that we were getting completely messed up with AIs putting pressure when you're in a fight with PvP or something like that. Some of the guns, some of my favorite guns over the playtest. The H416 was really fun. The MDR was pretty fun too. Vector was a good time as well. The Vector was a lot of fun. A lot of people liking the T03. I wasn't a big fan of it. Different strokes for different folks. Maybe people will like it. It is a bit of a stronger caliber. It does have a high firing power. I have heard some people really loving it. So yeah, I would say for me anyways, the 9mm Vector. I think the 45, they need to add in another caliber of ammo for it to be super viable. Or maybe you can look at leg meta. But with that said, dum-dum rounds, the damage on a dum-dum round is just superior in terms of anything that you're going to find in the 45 caliber. So I was kind of interested about the QC61, but again, the caliber isn't anything super crazy. The USAS though, I think you're going to see a lot of the USAS. This hip fire is pretty dang strong, and being an automatic, you can pop it off real fast. So it was a very strong gun. I would say, you know, under 25 meters, if you let this thing rip, you're going to do some damage. But like, look at that. Just a hip fire burst, dude. Like, look at that. Didn't play with it too much. I'm not a big, like, leg meta fan. I like to point at the head and shoot. Carbines, the M96. Didn't really play with it that much. Didn't really interest me. It's a weird 3-round burst. I honestly don't think many people are going to use this gun at all. But that kind of summarizes the gun. Some of the new attachments I maybe didn't go into super depth testing them all out. I'm gonna be honest, and when I was testing out for the new guns for the first like 2 days, I was just getting railed by M61s, and just everybody was running M61s trying to metagame everything. So started losing a little bit of wealth, and then had to almost go into using M110s or FALs to build up the wealth a little bit again, so you didn't go broke, and then you were able to start testing some stuff again. But this is kind of what we were left with. I left a lot of loot on the ground and just burning stuff all the time. This is how many reds that we had through the course of probably only 2 days on Armory. 2 days on Armory, we finally started using keys and whatnot. And again, we weren't sweeping every single safe every single time. So not bad though for a couple of days. Did buy a few sets of keys, primarily the 2F, the private lounge, and the commander key. So these 3 keys right here is kind of what I was using. In the Armory, if you grab these 3 keys, there's 7 safes in the Armory. So it's a pretty big hotspot. I think people will play extended Armory just simply because of that. But I think in terms of like the overall design of TV station, it was just far superior. I was like having so much fun PvPing in TV station. I am super excited for that. There's actually one thing that I didn't mention in our season 1 preview video, or at least I don't think so. Let's say you had a limb out. Let's say your leg was broken and you needed to surge. If you're surging, you can actually still move things within your inventory. which allows you to be more productive and less downtime of you just waiting for your med to go through, or your stim to go through, or you're loading ammo or unloading ammo. You can still Tetris. So that in itself was an amazing change. Very happy with that. I would love, when I first saw this quick kit, I thought it was actually going to be this, where you could save a template of your loadout. Whereas this is a little bit different. You basically get tickets and you can choose a pre-made loadout, and you know, it'll give you that, and it says a random set value, cost, etc. Right? When I saw the quick kit, I thought it would be maybe being able to set like a template of a loadout. So again, kind of looking at this, if I put, you know, a certain helmet, certain body armor, headset, chest rig, backpack, primary weapon, put all my like nades and meds and everything in the locations in which I wanted to, I could save that as a loadout. Therefore, if I were to die again and I want to run that same loadout, then I can just go here, boom, click it. It would then populate how much this is going to cost based off of how much it would need to purchase off the market versus what I had in my stash. And then if you're happy with that, then boom, you would go ahead and one-click purchase. I think people would like it. I think people would enjoy that QOL in general. Female operator will be available. I think I've heard rumors of about 300K to change the model from male to female, so I think a lot of people will. Now, I have heard that the hitbox is the exact same on the female. However, visually, it looks a slight bit smaller. So even if it's visually smaller, that's a bit of an advantage. Those are some of my thoughts for some of the Season 1 patch preview playtests that we just finished the last 4 or 5 days grinding on. We were probably doing about 12 to 15 hour days, testing out as many things as we could, the guns, etc., the maps, some of the new features. I'm hopeful for the cheater compensation with the reimbursements. Hopefully, you know, they take a stance on if someone is truly cheating, they don't just do a 1 week or a 1 month to, hey, think about your decisions. I really hope that they just come down hard and say no 10-year ban, and then everybody gets their coin back. I think that that would be very important. M61 ammo, they're looking at some rebalance options. Nothing's definitive yet, but we can let you guys know that they are working on it and thinking of some ideas on how they can make it a little bit more balanced for everybody. It is way too strong, and I think they were able to see that in the data of this playtest, given that tons of people were playing with the M61 with FAL or M110. I like, in a game like this, I like the close to medium range fights with a sprinkle of long range. I think that that makes for the most engaging types of fights where you're always on edge, and it's just really rewarding. And I think more guns become more viable. I think when you get into like valleys or like Northridge or even farm, and even in an extended armory, it starts to go to like the carbines and, you know, the one tap strength. And that's again why you know, M61 just shines with thermals. I'm sure they'll have some official communications once they get a little bit more of an idea of to what they're going to do with it. As of right now, it's early stage talks, so they're just figuring it out, having some meetings and seeing which direction they want to go with. Like I said, if I had the choice, I would just say remove thermals, remove all red ammo for 1 season, and just see the response of the community. Get a duo mode in there, go live on Steam, build up the player base, see what that feedback is, what people are enjoying, what those new things are that, you know, are maybe a little imbalanced in the game, and then reintroduce maybe the thermal, maybe the red ammo after, you know, some thought is put into what is the best way to bring it back into the game. You know, found in raid only red ammo. For me, I don't think until we get a full counter to a thermal, I think it's way too strong. I think it trivializes a lot of those open maps. And you can say all you want, oh, well, it costs 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 million. It doesn't matter. If you have a thermal, you should almost never lose. Like, literally, you should go on like 20 game win streaks. If you're playing smart with it, you should 100% always be winning with a thermal. And the amount of wealth that you're going to scrape for the cost of that thermal is going to be tenfold. So it is literally legal cheats in my opinion. And I'm just looking for a balanced game because I think that makes for the most rewarding gameplay loop. And it keeps people around longer, which is very important considering there's MTX models and whatnot. Another thing that I think the game would benefit from is seasonal resets. I don't think it's the direction that they want to go. A lot of people say, oh, you can't do that because people have bought or purchased coin with IRL money. Who cares? Reimburse them with the in-store credit. they can go buy as much cosmetics or use that for future battle pass cases and whatever the heck is. Like they can do it. That's why you spend money for in-game currency, and then that in-game currency gets purchased to coin or cases or whatever else that they have available eventually, cosmetics, etc. We talk a little bit about some of the things that you will be coming down the pipe in this customized area. There's going to be like gloves, badges, weapons, equipment, skins, etc. So but at the end of the day, I think seasonal resets are good. I think far too many people are just I'm a hoarder and want to keep a high stash wealth, and where I don't have a lot of time to play, and I understand that, but I think seasonal resets are good for the game because new players feel more open to coming into a game where there's an even playing field rather than playing against people that have 1 year stashes that are massive and they have really, really good stuff. And that's what you're dealing with all the time. So I think it's good for people to just come into the game at a new season. It's an even playing field. People have something to grind for. And then there's not, people aren't always hoarding wealth. They're actually spending it. They're actually like going in. I know people with like 50 mil to 100 mil and they're still going in 100K lockdown kits and just ratting. Like there's more to the game than just that. One thing that I've recommended is actually potentially increasing the gear equipment value requirement for the different modes. So currently right now it's 100K for lockdown and it's 300K for forbidden. And some people may look at that and say, oh, that's fine. But I personally don't think so, because with a gun in tier 4 build, like you can be anywhere from 3 to 500K just on a tier 4 build alone with a gun. When you're looking at forbidden, there are people that play with tier 4 builds and go into Armory and all that jazz, but chances are you're leading into that tier 5, tier 6 range, and you're going to be at a big disadvantage. And for some, that's not a big deal. For others, it is. The reason why I think that value requirement should be increased a little bit, most of the loot that you find in the game is based around the premise of the entry cost. So an example is this: lockdown at 100K. Everything that's inside is based around with that in mind. If you go in, and because a lot of people, again, with resets and all this talk, like, oh, I've worked really hard to get 50 mil. I understand current premise and structure of the loot. I get it. That's a good grind. 50 mil, you're doing great. But that's also, when you think about, again, lockdown, back to the conversation, 100K, all those lootables, everything that you find, it's all scaled to that. If you're coming out with 250, 300K, the game's looking, hey, man, you just made 3 times your money on the entry cost. You're doing fantastic. Whereas we look at 250, 300K and you're like, things are expensive, ammo's expensive. Like a moto helm is, what is it in live right now? Like 400 to 600K depending. So like if you really want to get to the point of running that tier 5, tier 6 and making that move into forbidden, it's a bit of a daunting grind. So what I would do is I would look at lockdown and I would put it around 253. 253, I think 250 would probably be a pretty good number. Scale the loot as such, and I would look at 450-ish or forbidden. It's a PvPvE, right? It's a PvX. Some people play this game to have a little sprinkle of PvP, but do a lot of PvE and go find cool treasure. There's other people that are just playing it for PvP. But another thing that I think, in addition to the lockdown and the forbidden, I really think that they should completely cap what can be brought into normal. It might take a little bit for them to do that, but I really think that they should cap what can be brought into normal. Normal needs to be a place to harvest new players, and not by farming them. That's not what I mean by harvest. For me, I don't always play with sweats. I play with anybody that is literally brand new to PC gaming, FPS, to anyone that is like super sweat, right? I see both sides, and I think normal needs to be a place that cultivates a good experience for a brand new player, or maybe someone's down on their luck and they want a more chill environment to build up their wealth. So I would do something in normal where you can't bring above tier 3, something like that, tier 3 and under, right? And I think where the intricacy of the difficulty of setting that all up would be tier 3 armor and all that stuff is really easy to say. And it starts getting into the ammo of, Pierce level 3, probably the max. And, I've recommended this before, and some people are like, no, there's restrictions upon restrictions. Allow me to do what I want. If I want to bring a thermal into normal, that's my risk. Like, come on, buddy. What are you risking? That's my opinion anyways. It needs to be a space where it's good for new players, and kind of tying this all in goes back to the MTX. I think as more MTX is designed for this game to actually make money, I think they may be more open to allowing more in-game loot like these value requirement and scaling the loot as such, because they're not just making money the way they currently are, which is primarily the elite bulletproof case. You can buy the bigger keychain, so that is one route, and then coin, right? I would love to see their data as to how many people are actually buying coin. And again, back to that whole thing about seasonal resets, people say, oh, well, you spend money, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. Like, sure, they can just give them back a reimbursement. Anybody that paid that coin, they can give them the in-game currency to then spend on other things. If anything, they get a benefit because they get some of that money back, and they can almost double dip. They were able to use the coin, but then they get that currency back to then go into, you know, it's almost a net plus for the people that would get reimbursed. But people that are buying coin aren't the people with 100 mil stashes. They're people that are struggling, and, you know, they got a deep bank account, because I'm gonna be honest, the value for coin purchase is terrible. Like, is it $10 for $1 million? It's not that good. Regardless of these value requirements, I think, in my opinion, and I have probably about 1,100 hours on ABI so far from closed beta to now. And these playtests, I've done multiple, you know, we've done Twitch Rivals, we've done the Gold Dog Tag event, the Billionaire Loot Challenge, we've done all these different things. I think they're getting very close for a Steam release. I think for me, if I was calling the shots at the helm of the ship, I would remove thermals. I would remove red ammo for now until you could bring it back in a more reasonable way. Thermals take away the art of finding someone on your screen. It's just a dummy mode, so it's just not needed. You don't need it. And I would add duo mode. Steam is going to bring in so many new faces. I think they want to get it right the first time when they do it, and make sure that they don't get review bombed. And having something like a mode where people could play and not have to always have 4 players. I know they're working on that solo. I don't think many people are interested in that. I don't know, maybe some people are, but I think it's more exciting from a developer standpoint than it is for the general community. I think most people would be ecstatic with a duo mode. I think most people have like that one buddy that they can jump on in, and if they don't, then it's a solo and a duo, and you're really rewarded if you end up taking on a 2v1 or a 1v2, something like that. And I think if you were to do that, I think if you were to bring in Steam at that point, I think people would enjoy it. There's also some keybind stuff that they're going to be looking at. I don't know how many of you guys have gotten into a fight and accidentally bumped your gun against a wall, and then you go to ADS and the ADS doesn't click in, and then once the bump comes out, then you have to ADS again, unpress it, press it again, if that makes sense. They're going to be cleaning up some of that as well. So there's a few things there. They're working on a lot of things. And I also heard that they're working on something that I've wanted since closed beta, because again, you could be using a gun and they're like, hey, what's that gun? Can you show me what's on that gun? Well, what better way for us to just go to whatever our gun may be? So let's say I wanted to share this particular gun with all of its attachments. They're going to have a way for us to basically share a string. So you're going to be able to copy something, share it to a friend, and then they could take that string and just go import, boom, and it's ready for you. I think that would be a really great QOL. So that's something that's being worked on too. So I think it's important to give constructive criticism when criticism is due, but I think it's also important to give praise when praise is due. I feel as of late the devs are listening, are starting to listen. You know, you see, although it may not be, in my opinion, the best case scenario for the thermal adjustments, it's something. And I think trying something is better than not doing anything. You know, you think about the red ammo feedback, the fact that they're doing something about it and trying some things. I really appreciate that. And big shout out to the devs for kind of listening to the community in that sense, because I think it's important long term for the health of this game. Some of these things we've brought to the devs, and, you know, one thing I invite everybody to do, if you guys got good ideas or you got some feedback, feel free to send it my way, and you know, we'll try to get some attention to these things. Let's make it a good game. Let's make it a well-rounded game, a good balanced game, and let's have some fun ripping it up. Big shout out to the devs. Thanks for listening. It was a good playtest. November 20th is going to be Season 1 launch. Should be fun. You'll see me in TV Station.